I don't know how many times Mark Latham and I have sought to dismantle this notion that everything's okay in the education of our children. You check with any child their general knowledge of things that you assumed they would know, and you'll be met with a blank face. There are many reasons for this. Only last week we learned from Glenn Fay, the Program Director in Education Policy at the Centre for Independent Studies, that Australian schools, by international standards, have some of the most disruptive classrooms on earth. On the OECD's Index of Disciplinary Climate, it's got nothing to do with climate change, that's the climate in the classroom, Australia ranks 70th out of 77 school systems. That's more dysfunctional than all but 5. 2 in 5 students say classmates don't listen to teachers. Nearly half say there is noise and disorder in most or all lessons. And of course, this has a clear impact on student outcomes, and it affects teachers. Those in more disruptive schools, as Glenn Fay has argued, report lower job satisfaction. These are teachers, and less confidence in their work. And many graduate teachers are not adequately prepared in classroom management during their training. Well, coming to Australia is a woman, Catherine Birbalsingh, and she will appear at the Centre for Independent Studies in Sydney on a discussion about building world-class schools. But we should be roping in every education minister to learn from Catherine Birbalsingh about what is wrong with education and how to repair it. But after all, she's been here before, over 10 years ago, saying things then that still have to be said now. She's described as Britain's strictest headmistress. Yet all she's doing is what education did years ago, until it was dismantled by the lefties and the Marxists. No mobile phones, get a detention for forgetting a pencil case. Timetables are taught by rote learning. Progressive, quote-unquote, education methods, which are really regressive, are out the door. Gratitude is practiced, expectations are high. Catherine Birbalsingh was actually born in New Zealand, grew up in Canada, went to Oxford University. She is critical of what she called years ago the state's heavy interference in education and in society. That's government. The state's heavy interference in education and in society. And she says that interference, quote, rids us all of personal and collective responsibility. Let the state, let the government do it. And then this, children depend on their parents to teach them right from wrong. But she said, because so many parents behave like children themselves, what hope is there for their children? But then she says the state almost encourages these same people to have children. She says it gets worse. The system not only encourages such people to have children, it encourages them to raise those children as a single parent because the father doesn't want to lose his welfare benefits by living with the mother, and that might cause that to happen. She makes the further point that parents have lost authority, that they can't discipline their own children because the children cry abuse and threaten to call the police and are encouraged to do so. Catherine Birbalsingh says because of the absence of discipline, good children are, quote, left in the dark because nobody notices, and they then become bad in an effort to gain attention. Now, I spoke to Catherine Birbalsingh 11 years ago in the wake of the riots in the UK arising out of the police shooting of a man. And suddenly the police faced a violent mob. It was in Tottenham, where gangs operated. Buildings were burnt down, windows were smashed, and glass and bottles and debris clogged the roads. 1,700 people were charged. 1,200 had gone through the criminal justice system before, and many of the rioters were young. At the time, Catherine Birbalsingh spoke on the subject, and I interviewed her on this, London schools and the London riots, too much nanny state. And she said, quote, children are never held to account for what they do. Is it any wonder they decided to show the police that they're in charge? They've been in charge of our schools and our buses for years. Why not the streets? Unquote. This has a ring about it, doesn't it, here? The marches for climate change and Black Lives Matter, appalling behaviour, nothing happens. But as Catherine Birbalsingh said, it wasn't just the system that failed when it came to rioters. Listen to this. When the violence started, the politicians were nowhere to be seen.